What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over Quota. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review if you haven't already. Now, I'm super excited today because I actually have my first sponsor. So this episode, along with, of course, the J. David Group, is sponsored by 180-Degree Selling. Bigger quotas, larger sales, and longer sales cycles require selling differently to get different results, of course. Do a 180. Go to 180degreeselling.com to download your free playbook. Also, the founder and sales performance coach, David Susan, appeared on Over Quota on episode number 5, where he talked about what he called the 3 balls of performance. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. And as I just alluded to, like always, the J. David Group, which is my company, of course, is sponsoring this podcast episode. My company helps high-growth software companies recruit top software sales leaders and salespeople. Go to the jdavidgroup.com/hiring to learn more, or go to the jdavidgroup.com/looking if you're looking for your next big challenge. Now, my guest today is Tammi Pirri, Vice President of People Operations at Arcadia, which offers population health management software and data to healthcare organizations looking to achieve financial success. Tammi, welcome to Over Quota.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and I have listened to many of your podcasts, so I'm honored to have this opportunity to connect with you and the audience and share more about Arcadia and all the growth that we're going through, particularly in sales. But as a company, we've added 80 new employees or new Arcadians since January 1st this year. So we've done a lot of growth, even though we're all working remotely through the end of the year. So.
Talk about starting on a high note. That's fantastic. I'd love to hear that. I know my listeners would love to hear that too. And by the way, before we get into it, I should have asked you before we actually aired. Did I pronounce the last name correctly? Is it Pirri?
You did, yes, okay. Yes. Pirri, Sicilian, long story. I think it means like either pear, orange, and Sicilian. But yes, so I use my maiden name for work, and yes, Pirri is, you said it perfectly. Most people, they tend to emphasize on the last I, but nobody did it perfect. So thank you.
I think that's from growing up having a lot of Sicilian friends, maybe, who knows?
I would think so, yes.
That might be it. That might be it. So tell me a couple of things. Tell me a little bit about your role at Arcadia and why Arcadia is experiencing such growth now where, you know, if you look at the macro economic numbers, let's just say, it seems to me like people wouldn't necessarily expect that.
Well, it's an excellent question. So what we do, providing population healthcare analytics to our customers, so other healthcare organizations who are not just managing hospitals, but have healthcare facilities scattered throughout the U.S. We're able, from our perspective, to provide the necessary data and the analytics that they need to make better informed decisions for their patients, to identify clusters, to identify the information that they hadn't previously for similar symptoms, and that's where we come in. We have, through our patented software and analytics program, the ability to identify faster and quicker to help doctors, to help healthcare clinicians identify what those patient test results mean and how it can be to help them feel better or solve their problems. And so with Arcadia, we've been around for a number of years, started our organization in a consultant-based company, and then in 2010, 2011, started to become focused on data platform and become a software platform, so at the enterprise level. And so for the last 3 years, Arcadia has grown. We've grown our technology hiring, we've grown our sales and marketing hiring because of how well we're solving our customers' problems. Basically, they're bringing us in to help them with their analytics, to help solve their problems, and bring all of this data, terabytes of data, come in and flow through Arcadia's platforms and identify the information. So that is why we're growing. And yes, while there was, a slight lull due to the initial stages of COVID, most of our customers have rebound and are continuing to focus their energies on identifying and understanding what the analytics is telling them, and we're helping them predict better outcomes.
Would a use case, thank you for that, for breaking that down. Let me go a step further, just so, because I want to know if I want to make sure I understand it. If I don't, correct me. But would a use case be, and I guess we'll use the coronavirus and hospitalization and utilization of the ventilators and those types of things within hospitals, or like, for instance, my mother's a case manager. She's been a case manager for many years at some of the larger hospitals. She was she's been a nurse my entire life, and she'll always tell me like, oh yeah, we have we closed down the last COVID floor, or I'm trying to find a place to put someone in a long-term care facility, or even like when she was a nurse on the floor, she'd say like, we don't have many, or I guess even now during the coronavirus, we don't have a lot of beds. So would Arcadia help, in one function, I guess, help organizations understand like all of that data around like which beds are being utilized, when to utilize those types of things, or is it most even deeper than that?
It's even deeper than that. At a high level, could we answer that question about where the beds? We could, but we don't. We tend to look at the clusters and the patient information for the administrators for the high level analytics aspect of it based on cost. So
got it.
From that perspective, do thank your mom for her efforts. I am very appreciative day in and day out of all our care workers and making everyone as safe and as healthy as possible. So thank her. We as a company know how important it is now more than ever to appreciate those folks who are keeping all of our patients safe and all of us safe as well. So yeah,
for sure. And I always go to her for all of my little ailments. And say,
exactly, that's the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. Since day one, believe me.
Hey, you don't have that, but you have this potentially.
That's right. And speaking of taking care of patients and that type of stuff, obviously, the vice president of people operations at Arcadia, part of your role is the caretaker of your employees and their own sort of well-being and health and all of that other stuff. So tell me a little bit about your role there, and then some of the the challenges, perhaps maybe even some of the things that you've learned through all this when everybody is distributed and working from home.
It's an excellent question, simply because I just celebrated on Thursday of last week my 1-year anniversary with Arcadia. So
wow.
I had predominantly worked for software technology at the enterprise level companies, not focused in healthcare or life sciences, and so came to Arcadia about a year ago. When I joined, employees worked, and I worked 1 day a week from home. Never in my wildest imagination would I have imagined that in March, we would have started having everybody work remotely in efforts to keep everybody safe. What I have learned and what we as a company are doing, especially my people operations team that I work with, we all work very closely together to ensure that employees have what they need. We have focused a lot of our efforts not just on making sure that the work from home setup is there. We have stand-up desks that we have shipped for a new hire. We have all of the remote onboarding. Everything that they need is shipped and available to them. There's a remote onboarding and training for new hires. But what we have done, because we are all remote and will be at least through the end of the year, we have rolled out Arcadia Cinema from people operations. So twice a week we have a family feature film during the week, and then we have either our social injustice film series or the adult comedy series on every other Thursday. In addition to that, we have 2 fitness sessions per week on Thursdays and Tuesdays from a fitness trainer, so it's all remote. We have a coffee hour every other Thursday and a happy hour every other Friday. In addition, my team is constantly sending out notifications about wellness activities, from mental health to activities about how to join and how to solve social injustice issues or get involved. And so we have other programs that we've rolled out. And we are just celebrating the 3rd week in September will be our Arcadias Got Talent finale. So we've brought in folks once a month to have our talent show. So we've had 3 episodes, and our finale will culminate the 4th and final winner, and we'll crown a winner winning a $1,000 prize for being the best in talent at Arcadia. We had a graduation ceremony in June for all of those graduates in the Arcadia family, so not just Arcadians. We had 2 people graduate from master's programs and 1 from a PhD. But then we had lots of littles, and so we had about 40 graduates that we celebrated through the 2020 Arcadia graduation ceremony. And, so we are constantly trying to change it up and give people different ways to get connected. On a weekly basis on Tuesdays, I host Ask an Arcadian, where we bring 2 folks together and we ask them questions about themselves, favorite food, music, music tastes, books, and we have our audience ask questions. So that's a lot of fun as well. So we have our company meeting every other week just to make sure that there's another way for people to stay connected. So as a culture, we are very much focused on education, analytics, but giving employees as much as they need. We know this is a difficult time for everyone. We've got several coping Slack channels for employees to stay connected and share stories. There's an Arcadians Slack channel where people are sharing their art that they're creating. I'm especially looking forward to Halloween because we have 2 very passionate Arcadians who want to do some great remote Halloween celebrations. So we're trying to keep it fresh and keep folks engaged and offer as many activities as possible. We do have Wednesdays, our trivia days. So we're doing as much outreach, and not everyone needs to participate with everything, but we want to make sure that we're offering from People Ops a wide swath of ways to stay engaged. And in the fall, we'll have some how-to activities and how to create, there's a how to create wine, how to create some beer. Those how-tos will come up in the fall. So want to keep people, working together, having fun together, and staying connected together. So
that is absolutely amazing. That's several different questions. I mean, I literally have a question for everything you said, but let me focus on something broad, and then I want to be specific on something you said. Obviously, you have a lot of going on, a lot of initiatives, a lot of thought has been put into all of this. My first question is that, like, how do you decide that, okay, we're going to have, a talent show, or we're going to have, feedback sessions, or we're going to have, you mentioned, like, so many different things, like winemaking. Like, how, is it a brainstorm between you and the team? Is it multi-functions within the company? How does that all work? And then how, obviously this whole shelter in place thing is not like it's old, right? It's still relatively new. How quickly did you just, like, come up with the ideas and then execute on it? Because, that's impressive in such a short period of time. Have all that.
Thank you. So the People Ops team is a group who is very impressive and is very creative. So Arcadias Got Talent is a brainstorm or brainchild of our senior director of people operations, Kathy, who came up with the idea after watching, I think, America's Got Talent, and thought that we could do that with Arcadia. So in that particular instance, we didn't send out a survey asking, we actually took it upon ourselves to talk to different leaders in the organization and ask if they had any folks, and then broaden it beyond to see. So we've had to be creative with some of that, because not everyone is into a remote talent experience. And so we've recorded some folks, but we've had folks come on and solve a Rubik's Cube puzzle. That was the winner of the first episode of Arcadia's Got Talent. And then we've had certainly a lot of musical acts, but also, some gymnastics and other things. But mostly, so we have surveys that we send out, and did, probably 6 or 7 different surveys asking for feedback, what's working, what's not working, and build some programs there. Now that we've been doing this for 5 months, we see that we're able to offer different things and then test. So usually we like to give it 2 months. If people are excited and doing it, then we'll keep going. But if they're not interested, or people aren't attending, or there's not a lot of interest, then we recognize and we'll scrap it and we'll move forward and do something different. Staying nimble. I mean, we've got 340 employees, so it's not like we have a small company, but what I pride being a part of People Ops and having a great team is that we're responsive. And so, if folks have ideas, they're bringing them to us. If we want to test something, we can. Our CEO is very much into openness and wanting to communicate and try something different. I think it's the core of our culture, is being problem solvers, but also being open and nimble and trying different ways to solve problems. I'm most concerned about mental health and making sure people stay connected as much as possible. So I think that's where it's all coming from, that we're going to try as much as we can and try to offer not just one opportunity, but as many as we can for folks, because you just never know. And we are all struggling in different ways. I honestly thought, this would be a 2-month process of working remotely. I never expected to have us as a company announce 2 weeks ago that everyone would be working from home through the end of the year. I never, in my wildest dreams, ever thought that would happen. So part of that is we've got to keep moving forward and experimenting on what we can do. But we get a lot of feedback from our team. I think that's also part of our culture, is that we are very verbal, very communicative, very quick to share if something's not working or something is working. So my team's constantly getting feedback and pieces of data from our team, which is part and parcel of what we do as a company. We are a data analytics company and population healthcare company. So.
Yeah, that helps, right? Eating your own dog food,
yes.
so to speak, right? as they say. How many participants did you have in the talent in the AGT? And I love how you can call it AG2 exactly.
I know. I'll be honest. We could steal that logo, but we
yeah.
with patent infringement. We did put the logo, and then so the first episode we had 5 people. The second episode we had 6, and then the most latest one we had 5. No, actually we had 4. But the fourth one was actually an ensemble for one of our Arcadians is an improv or does improv on his downtime. He's an engineer and works in our connectors team. And so he and 4 other improv artists got together. The CEO and I had answered some of their questions. We recorded those questions, and based on that, they were able to improv and submitted that as one of their talents. So that was, we're a little, the CEO and I were a little worried, but ultimately I have to say they were really funny. And so it was something that I had never seen before, but there was a clear winner for the first episode, a clear winner for the second. There was a 4-way tie in the third. That I never thought would happen, but because they did a point scale, and across the board it was a 4-way tie, which I was just blown away by. So
so incredible.
So we have the grand finale has I believe it's 8 acts basically, because all 4 from the last one, and then the first and second from the first 2 episodes. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we have to stay nimble with, because we would never have imagined that there would be 4 episodes of Arcadias Got Talent. So
incredible. So you mentioned obviously mental health is really important to you in the whole 9. Have you been able to, I guess, anecdotally, understand how those results have positively impacted the team and the organization? Like, what have you seen that you're proud of and happy about as a result of putting in all this effort and seeing people engaged?
Well, so it's a great question. There's a couple things that we're seeing. Certainly the People Ops team every 2 months does a check-in with every employee. So among the 4 or 5 of us, we check in with everyone to ask them how it's going, what do they need, what's working, what's not. So we do that. But honestly, the feedback through our Slack channels has been overwhelming. The attendance for events has been really high. And then, on top of that, I see feedback from Glassdoor and from the surveys. So there's anecdotal feedback coming from multiple settings or multiple ways, both anonymous and direct. And I think, that's for Arcadia's culture, a way to emphasize what we believe in about being a communicative, collaborative, open organization. And I think that, that's a really important way for us all to stay connected. So managers are highly tuned to staying on top of anyone that they see that they haven't seen engaged. One of our wonderful leaders, one of our CTO, had an employee that he was concerned about, talked to him and persuaded him to take a vacation that he hadn't done in a year. And so they stayed in touch throughout the 2-week vacation. But that wouldn't have happened if we were all going to the office day in and day out. So I see that there's positive things there. That person came back on Monday and seems much more engaged and happy for that break. The CTO also did cut off his access so that he wouldn't be able to go back and look at his email. But I thought that, that he was responding to all the cues and said, I want to take care of my team member. And so we're very blessed to have a great CTO who took care of his employee, but he had the support of all of the people ops team and the company to do that. And the fact that we're able to do that and emphasize through our chief medical officer, who sends out once a week articles either on COVID, how to cope, what to do when you have a school child who's struggling with COVID. But he also, most recently, talked about the restorative value of taking time off, and vacations are important. And so as a company, we've embraced that and reminded everyone that they have to take the time to recharge themselves, especially now. Yes, it's hard to go places, but there's still something to do and to take that break so you don't burn out. So it's very much a passion, not only of mine, but also the other members of our people ops team and for the company as well. So we as a company do look out for each other. So.
Yeah, and you speak about it with such enthusiasm, which I would imagine obviously translates into, the way other people feel about it as well, because enthusiasm is contagious.
Yes.
I've always said, so that's awesome. I love the fact that you have both anecdotal and, data.
Yes.
Results, right, that you can point to. That's fantastic. So
that is why we changed it from HR to people ops. That is really important. Right. It's not only what we do as a company, but from a people perspective, being able to define and use metrics and analytics to say this is why we're making that change is so important. So yes.
Is that a big shift, by the way, that maybe has come or is coming from HR to people?
So when I came on board, I actually had a conversation with the COO, CFO, and CEO, and said, as I'm coming on board, I would like to make the change for this reason. And I think there was a lot of skepticism. I'll be honest, I knew there was skepticism, but I'm proud that we made the change. People still say HR and know that within 2 or 3 seconds I'll correct them. So most people are catching it, but they're also seeing there's a dashboard that we use on a monthly basis to publish stats, to talk about and honestly, to bring up and to fight social injustice. We had the stats readily available, and that is the biggest focus on my team besides recruiting. And I really want to talk about recruiting, but we also have a diversity, equity, and inclusion roadmap that will roll out in the beginning of September. Right now it's at 35 slides worth of data. And so it's a roadmap through the end of 2021. It defines what we're going to do as a company, both from education to recruitment to social injustice and fighting it from an external point of view as well. So there's a lot that's going on, but those are the 2 big focuses for my team and for me right now, is recruitment and social injustice and fighting what we run into on a regular basis.
Let me just touch on that a little bit.
Sure.
The roadmap, where does that road lead to, right at the end? In other words, like, what is the outcome that you would like to see if that roadmap leads you to whatever it is that you want to lead to? What does it look like? What does it feel like? All that stuff.
So it's excellent that you ask, because the roadmap will never end. It will just continue to evolve and achieve. I will set goals. Right now, the company has 4% Black employees. We're 78% white. That mark about Black employees has to be, it should be 10%. I believe that that's the goal that we have at the end of 2021, 10% Black, and then 20% Black by the end of 2022 is the roadmap goals. But also I want to make sure that retention, so we've got some retention goals that we've put in there, because it's easy as you get bigger and the company grows and expands that you lose sight of retention and retentive value. And so career progression and defining what it means to be at Arcadia long-term and what my career path could be, those questions have to be answered in the DEI roadmap as well, because it's not enough to just say, well, we're gonna make changes in recruitment, we'll remove names, we'll remove anything that's identifiable to hiring managers, we'll bring folks on, but what are we gonna do to retain them? And how do we make sure that that is something that everyone is a part of? So education is a long-term journey. So I see the roadmap as much like a product development roadmap. That's why we're calling it a DEI roadmap, because this is the first launch, and then we will continue to refine and harness it. I would love to see Arcadia at the end of 2022, 23, have 25% Black employees. So really, push that envelope, but also retain all of them as well. I think that's the important measure. Is you can bring a lot of employees on, but are you able to retain them and show them the path forward, promote them from within? As a company, we're 50% male, 50% female. That's great. But in terms of promotions and having leaders, that's important too. So I've got some roadmap milestones for that as well. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the I in that and the DEI as far as retaining is really important, right? That inclusive part for sure. Awesome, fantastic. Well, now
I do worry about that. A lot of companies now are talking about Black Lives Matters, and you and I have talked about it. It's really important, but don't lose sight of inclusion means retaining and long term. And so you can educate everyone, and I believe that that's a big part of our roadmap is education, unconscious bias, uncovering it, being mindful of it and aware of it. But then how do you take that to the next step? So hiring a DEI director for us to come on board in 2021 is also on the roadmap. But then, what else do we need to do to retain folks so that they've come to Arcadia? How do they stay, become leaders, or be leaders? That's an important question to answer for us too.
Yeah, for sure. So people can look up and see somebody that looks like them, right? Whether it's a woman or otherwise. Yep, absolutely. Right, now that we've gotten everybody excited about the culture, and because I'm ready, I'm sending my application as soon as we get off the phone, sending my resume. Talk to us about the, obviously you talked about the growth in the beginning of this, but talk about the open sales positions that you have now and what it looks like moving forward and how people can apply.
So we have an applicant tracking system called Lever. Lever is responsible for having our roles on our website. So in sales right now, you'll find an RFP and sales enablement analyst position. That person could be based anywhere in the US. This is really someone to enable sales, the sales process. We send out a lot of RFPs. We're looking for someone to come in and support the sales operations leaders and make sure that everything that goes out is to the best of our abilities and actually wins more bids. And so this is really the end-to-end request for proposals to the creation of it, the submission of it, and the managing of all of it. So collecting that information, working with every part of Arcadia, making that happen. And working with our director of sales enablement and making sure that we've got what we need. There's also the sales academy that this position would also be a part of, because we do have a sales certificate and a sales academy certificate for our sales team to go through as part of their onboarding. So this role would be part of that. We also have a new position that's going to be launched on September 1st, which is a lead analyst, or a general lead analyst. So this is someone who's going to work with all of our data, do outreach, engage not on the phones, but through email, and some responsiveness to outreach that we've already put in place. They'll be working with our sales director to make that more palatable, working with us to hit those goals, to help improve the achievement of the quotas that we have for 2020, but also for 2021, because we're prepping not only for the end of this year, but also very mindful for all the activities that we're doing now. That's going to have a knock-on effect for January of 2021. And last but not least, so we don't have this position currently open, but it will. There's going to be a sales director for someone based in the Southeast of the US. That position will come up in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we'll look to fill that hopefully the first week in October. So as much as I just said, it'll be coming up in a couple weeks, like October is around the corner, which is that, because like next Tuesday is September 1st. So October is like right there. Because I was like, wait, I'm going to go on to Jay's show and I need to talk about, that seems too far away. And then I looked at the calendar, I'm like, oh, that's like 5 weeks or less. Okay, we should talk about that, because it's a director of sales. So someone going out, not really going out, but doing outreach and engaging potential customers, walking them through what Arcadia can do and solve for them. So of course, all remote. Every position right now will be remote at least to the end of the year. And honestly, I would expect through the beginning of Q1 next year as well. But we haven't announced that yet, but I would expect. So for your audience, that's a secret that they know, please. So you can apply on our website. You can also apply to careers@arcadia.com, or actually, sorry, careers@arcadia.io. Or you can send me an email direct. It's my first name, so Tammi with an I, .Pirri @arcadia.io. Send me an email if for whatever reason someone doesn't immediately respond. You can reach out to me and I'll make sure that we redirect, or I speak with you and work with you as well. So recruiting is my second passion right now. We've got a lot of open positions between now and the end of the year that we've got to fill, and our sales roles are most critical. That's why I love listening to your podcast. I learned a lot that I'm able to then share with our other folks in sales and in marketing too. So.
Oh, it's so humbling to hear every time I hear that, which is so good. Thank you for that. Also, guys, remember to mention that you heard her on this podcast, because you're hearing this exclusively, really. It's not like she's sharing this with anybody else, as you just alluded to, right? So this is October, listen to me. It better not be October. We're all in trouble. This is August 24th. So this episode will be going out I think Wednesday, this following Wednesday, which I forget what date that is, but nevertheless, certainly the very beginning of September 2nd, I believe. And so hopefully that'll give folks enough time to react to this. Yes. Yep, September 2nd, which is good. What else was I going to say there? Oh, also, how many salespeople does Arcadia have right now, roughly, if you don't know the exact? Or just
between SDRs and sales operations, sales engineers, I'd say about 22 people in our sales team, 23 people in our sales team, because we have a sales director who actually, or executive director of sales operations, she just started this morning. So congratulations, Lauren, welcome.
Wow, there you go.
So 23. And so we've got 3 more roles. And honestly, with our sales team, that's the area that as we grow, regardless of budget, we're always looking to add great salespeople. So that's why I would encourage folks, take a look. If you don't see something, email me, reach out, and we'll stay in touch, because there's always positions that are coming up, and our budget discussions start at the end of this week, early next week. So 2021 will be here sooner than I think any of us really are realizing, but I think we're all looking forward to 2021 being a much better year than 2020.
Geez, why is that? What's going on? What happened? I was asleep.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, nothing to see. What's going on? I can also say that I did a solo episode on the last one, episode 31, I think it was, and I alluded to the fact that things are starting to heat up, just from my perspective in my seat, especially B2B enterprise salespeople, and that the end of the year, it seems to, again, just talking to my clients and my referral partners and the whole 9 yards, it's going to be a busy end of the year, guys. So just, be prepared, stay engaged. And certainly the beginning of 2021 for me and what I do, it seems to me always the busiest quarter is Q1, and more specifically January is just like nuts.
Oh yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and we're a calendar year, so end of Q1 is the end of December, and then January 1 starts a new year fresh for us. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tell us, those who are listening who may be considering other opportunities or may, for some reason or another, are thrust upon looking for other opportunities. Talk to me about, give me 3 pieces of advice that they should know that would either help them apply to Arcadia or just generally speaking.
So first and foremost, don't lose hope, because right now there's a lot more people who are in the same position that you are. A year and a half ago, I was exactly in the same position. I was looking for a new opportunity, and I'll be honest, it's easy to get discouraged, so don't. Do things, take a break, because yes, it's a full-time job looking for a new job, but it's easy right now to feel like nothing's gonna shift, nothing's gonna change, or it's easy when you hear that the job that you thought would be the ideal fit for you isn't, then you can let that permeate and impact you. Don't, because the next role and the next opportunity is going to come and you won't know what it is, but you got to keep trying. So it's easy to get discouraged now, especially there's a lot of people who are looking, and I hear from a number of people, stay positive, stay focused on finding the right opportunity for you. It will come. I always thought it was a big cliche and people were just too happy, and they were saying, they're not saying don't put in the work, they're saying stay focused, don't get discouraged, because there will be the right fit for you and it will come. And it's hard when you're in it to remember that. So biggest piece of advice there. The other 2 pieces of advice that I would share is communication is important. And now more than ever, remember your job search is not the front and center for the people ops or recruiting folks in talent acquisition or the sales leader. That's not their job. Their job is closing business, doing other things. Your job is focused on finding a new job. So with that in mind, when you don't hear from someone, remember there could be another reason, and most likely it's not because you're not the right fit. It may be that there's something else going on. So I always advise everyone, including myself, let an appropriate amount of time go by. If someone says, I'll get back to you by Friday, and they don't, and it's Monday, give them until end of day Monday or Tuesday as a follow-up to say, sure, something held you up. I just want to reiterate my interest, and I hope to hear from you. But don't do it too often. I would say 2 outreaches, and then if you don't hear back, move on, because there's so many people pinging someone, and for my own real world experience, when a candidate overemphasizes and focuses on, but you said, or I didn't hear from you, you tend to recognize, well, maybe this isn't the right candidate, because they're not recognizing where my pain is. So much like in the sales process, what problem are you going to solve? You've got to look at it from that perspective as well. As this person's got lots of other problems to solve. It's not their problem to fill your job for you. It's their problem to fill the job plus 3 other things. So keep that in mind when you're doing outreach. So I've seen lots of creative things. I've had people send me flowers. I've had people send edible arrangements. Some of those things actually can work, and some of them can backfire. So be careful when you're going outside the box and trying to set yourself apart, because it's all about timing. And I'll be honest, I've had candidates who I thought weren't going to be the right fit. They have been respectful and waited, and or had someone else make an introduction, or done some ways to outreach that weren't like everyone else. And that ended up being it. But it's a lot of timing and having the right skills at the right time for the right role. All of that's actually true. So be careful with going outside the box and setting yourself apart, because sometimes that can actually backfire. And I have the person who sent me flowers, we did not hire. The person who sent me the edible arrangements, I didn't end up hiring either. So I felt bad that they spent that money, and appreciate, but I'll be honest, I don't remember their names, versus some of the other folks who didn't do that, but were respectful and said, your time's busy. I appreciate, and I know you said you'd get back and you haven't. I just want to reiterate my interest, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. I felt that it was a great fit. Please keep me in mind. And so those are the candidates, honestly, that I'm like, okay, they get it, and I'll come back to them and give them a heads up. I'll take time out of my day to respond to that person versus others. So keep that in mind, that the person that you're selling to for the role is also responsible for another job as well. So that could be why. And I'll be honest, that feedback had been given to me by an amazing CFO a long time ago that said, your job search is yours, and not everybody's going to come back in the same time frame that you do. That's why it feels impossible. So keep all of that in mind as you're reaching out. I don't have the sage advice to bypass people ops or talent acquisition, because I don't believe I think that can happen. Sometimes you do need to bypass them, but not all folks in people ops and talent acquisition aren't helpful, aren't going to get you that job. So be careful when you hear that advice. And the third and most important thing is, remember, hiring a salesperson is all about value. What problem are you going to solve for that company or for that role? That's the most important thing I can emphasize. The other 2 points, they're fine, but the third one is, when you're pitching and talking about yourself, what value, what problem am I going to solve for this company in this particular role? You want to always focus on that. Typically, that's why they need the role, is that something or someone isn't hitting their objectives and you're not getting quota achievement. So they brought you on, or they're interviewing you for that problem to solve. So you want to emphasize how you can do it and how you'll be able to help solve that problem. That's honestly, of all the 3 pieces of advice, that's the most important I see. And I know when a candidate is responding to, their resume, they're also being able to point out in their resume what problems they, as a candidate, have solved. So most important part.
I love that. That is fantastic. What problem are you going to solve for the person that's making the decision ultimately, right?
Yes.
Yes. I think that's fantastic. I actually had a thought too as well while you were saying that, which is that wouldn't it be interesting to have not a cover letter and not a resume, but almost a roadmap, to use your word earlier, of how a salesperson solved a particular problem from prospect to close in a nice, almost even like what do they call those things? The visual representation of data. That's like infographic, right? In a way.
Infographic resumes. I thought about getting one. It's harder to do that in people ops, but I would say, those work. Don't disregard an infographic resume for everything else. I think having both is important, because not every company can process an infographic resume, but I think they're great, because it's a great visual about the problem solving that I mentioned. But also I do like that I'm a visual learner. And that's how for me that's important. So I think it's absolutely worth it too.
Yeah, very interesting. And then just to recap, don't lose hope. It's easy to get discouraged, as you found out yourself, but you persevered. And communication is important. You have to know how to communicate in the right way, when to follow up appropriately. Don't over follow up, if you will, and to be tactical, right? And like we just said, what problem are you going to solve? Fantastic. You already know, we can go to tammi.pirri@arcadia.io to email you to find out more. Just maybe even some pieces of advice. Doesn't necessarily have to be that you guys are applying, but if you want to follow up with Tammi to say thank you, of course you can go to careers@arcadia.io as well to apply for their jobs there. And Tammi,
you can also look me up on LinkedIn too if you want.
That's right, LinkedIn, become a connection. And as always, make sure that you let her know that you heard her on over quota, because I'm telling you, it's when you put that in the subject line, it gets attention. So I'm not saying that just to promote my thing. I'm just saying that it's actually smart and tactical, because I know people have told me. So definitely continue to do that. And Tammi, thank you for going over quota.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, goodbye, everybody.